Alrighty, welcome back. We are going to be, um, let me see the best place for me to put myself. Let me get the right one here. Let's see, where am I going to put myself today? I guess I might move myself around here. So today we're going to start off by importing some files from Unity. So the first thing we're going to do is to locate the files that we're going to import. So in Unity lesson 4, our unit 4, in the intro or the tutorial lesson 1, let me go ahead and bring this over here. So in here we have our materials that we're going to download. You're going to download the zip file, and once you get the zip file to your computer, you're going to extract it. So it's important that you remember that you need to extract this file. So you're going to find this file, extract all, and this location. You should extract it into your let's press the wait. So we need to we're going to browse to where you want to extract it to. You want to make sure you extract it into your folder for your project. So let's make sure that we find our Unity folder. And yeah, so let me go ahead and find my Unity folder. If you're not sure where your Unity folder is, like for myself, I can just type in Unity here in my search and find out where Unity is. And let's see if I can find it here. This is very interesting that it's not coming up here. Why do you not know where my Unity is? Okay, once you've located the folder where your project is, then you're going to go ahead and say select folder, and that is where it's going to be extracted to. So once you say the path that you want yours extracted to, so depending on what class you're in, if you're in my class, then it should be possibly to the K drive on your computer, or depending on where the location is, make sure that you have extracted it to the file. We're going to extract it there. Once it's extracted, we can go ahead and close these windows here and get back to Unity. When we're in Unity, now that we're in Unity, we can go to our assets, and we're going to import import our custom package. Actually, yeah, so we're going to go to assets, import package, custom package, and we're going to navigate to that folder, and we're going to select the import package Unity. So we're going to navigate to our folder that we're at. Let's go ahead and open up that folder, and we're going to go into our assets. I'm sorry. We're going to go into our backup one. Go back to our go to the prototype starter file. You'll see this as prototype starter files. And if you click on this right here, so it says prototype for starter files, and then say open, it will import those. So this is, you'll see that if you haven't done this, if this is all green and says new, if you forget and you go to this again and they're not green, then you know that you've already done this. Let's go ahead and say import and bring those in. It shouldn't take very long for that to happen. Once that is done, then we should see that in our assets, we should have some scenes. We should have a prototype 4. If we want to, we can actually click on this sample scene and delete it and say delete it. And then we could double click on the prototype 4 and we'll say save. And actually we have to delete our sample scene again, delete it. And we can double click on ours. So we're in our sample in our prototype, our prototype 4 here. So in our prototype 4 here, if we hit play, we're going to see some things that are going on in this play. So when we hit play, I have maximize on play set, so that when I hit play, it maximizes to my full screen. So you'll see that there's some effects that are actually going on in here that are already set up for us, including things like some like effects of clouds that are going on in here. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But right now, this is kind of how this is working. We don't have any settings on here yet. We're actually going to set up some things to make our workspace kind of spin around as we go. So let's see. So just be real clear that we have this set up in a tall, our layout is in a tall layout with things rearranged. This is the way I like it for my class. So if you don't have your setup set up like mine, then you can try and figure out how this is. If you have been following along with my other trainings, then you can go back a few and figure out how this is set up. um, the lesson that we're in right now is we are going to be creating a play table here that is going to be having some assets that go on it that will fall off of it, and each time it falls off, so we'll have a player and we'll have some enemies, and every time the enemies fall off, they'll be replicated. So we are going to start off with like making sure that our camera is set up and a few other things. So in our lesson 4.1, we are going to start off by creating like how do we actually start. So sorry guys, I'm trying to figure this out. We're going to set up our player and we're going to add our textures and stuff. So again, I'm hoping that you have watched the videos. I'm here to just help you troubleshoot through some things. So I know that you have watched through a lot of Carl's videos, and I'm here to help supplement with what he has said and trying to give you some insight to some more things. So again, we have some different areas that we're working with. So we have our inspector, we have our hierarchy and our project area. We have our scene area and our game area. So these are the main areas that we work with, and we do sometimes work in the animation area here, in here as well. So in this one, we are going to create our own objects today to make this work. We're going to be creating a lot of different of our own objects, as well as working with some of the assets from this. So we are going to actually start with a 3D object. So we're going to go to the plus here and create a 3D object, and it's going to be a sphere. So we're going to create a 3D object of a sphere, and you see it lands on our 0, point of our area. We want to change the scale. So in the scale here, we could just type in the scale all the way across in the X, Y, and Z of the scale over here. You could drag these if you want to adjust them, but it's so much easier if you just type in 1.5 all the way across 1.5. Oops, not 15. That would be awful. 1.5 and 1.5. 1.5. So we've changed the sphere to be 1.5. And what's interesting about this is in it though, we don't have to worry about adjusting the world up and down for this to be on the position of the positioning is setting on the world right now at 1.5, which is perfectly fine. And we do need to add a rigid body to this though. So let's go down to our components over here. Let's go to add, and we're going to add rigid body. Make sure it's just a plain rigid body, not a 2D or 2D. And it should have automatically given it a round rigid body. And let's go ahead and zoom in on this and see. So what's nice about this is the rigid body for a sphere automatically goes around it. We don't have to worry about it being bigger or smaller. Let's not play with that at all. We'll just leave the rigid body like it is. We're not going to add, we're going to leave gravity like it is, so it stays on there. And I think that's all it asks for us to do in steps 4.1. And then it says add a texture. So we're going to figure out how to add texture. So right now we have just a plain sphere. So we're going to talk about what textures mean. So right now we have just a plain sphere. It's just a plain regular sphere. We could change the color of it and stuff, but we are actually going to go ahead and in our sphere, okay, we're going to add a texture to our objects. We're going to go to the course library. We're going to find the folder for textures here. And there's several different textures that are available to us here. Now I realize we're going to be adding textures to our player as well as our enemy. And so we can kind of flip through these. And again, these textures are going to show up down here in this area down here. So if we want to see what they are, we can kind of expand them. Some of them are similar. We can kind of decide what it is that we want. Again, in the future, you can make your own textures. So decide what kind of texture you want for your player. I'm just going to grab one of these. Now I can either drag it up to the sphere up here. Oh, we didn't rename this to player yet. Let's make sure we rename this to player. So we're going to rename this to player with a capital P, Player. It's going to be important that we do that so we don't get confused later. So again, clicking on player. We can either drag this up here and drop it on here to change it, or we can grab one and just drag it and drop it across here into the scene. Now it gets confusing, and make sure you're not dragging it into the game. And this, because this ball is going to be moving, it won't be as important for us to rotate it if we wanted to rotate it. Like if, like you see how this line is here. If for some reason we felt like we wanted to rotate it, you could rotate it on the Y if you wanted to make it, like if you wanted to rotate this way, it would kind of rotate that around. If for some reason you didn't want that line to show, or you could go -30 if you wanted it to show more. But this is really going to be rolling anyway, so it won't really matter how you want this, that line to show. I guess so. It's really up to you as to how you want this to show, and because it's not going to really matter. Again, because this is moving. If this was going to be not moving, an inanimate object, not moving at all, then you might choose something different. So this is going to be our player. I know he chose a black color for the player. I might choose something like a checkered player or something, put that on there. And yeah, it's up to you as to what you might choose. So again, I dragged it over there. There's really only one, no matter how many times you drag it over, there's really only one skin on it, one texture on it. That's what that's about. So that's step 2 of setting the player texture in the first lesson of 4.1. The third step is to change the focal point of the camera. So again, like anything else, we have a main camera in here, and we're going to change that focal point of the camera to make sure that we are looking at this wall. Because as you see right down here in this game, you'll see that we're kind of at this, not necessarily the best angle of this. And if you see the position of this, it's at X 0, Y 10, and Z -20. We're going to reset the position of the camera to be 0, 0, 0. This camera is actually going to be following the player instead. And we want to wait, my bad. So undo that, my bad. We're not doing that. We're actually creating an empty object. We're creating an empty object. Ooh, goodness gracious. Creating an empty object. And so just creating create an empty child, right? So create an empty child. And so where did it go? Oh, it says game object. And we're going to rename this to be focal point. So call it focal point. So this is going to be really important that you pay attention to what you're doing here. So focal point. So we're calling this focal point. This is going to be important. Now I put it under the camera. I'm actually just going to go ahead and take it down and put it. Didn't mean to put it under the camera. I'm just going to put it under prototype. Okay, focal point. Be clear on this. We're going to make sure that the position is set to 0, 0, 0 on this focal point, and then make the camera a child of that object. So this got a little complicated here. So again, in the prototype, if you make a child, so it just makes an empty object here. There's really nothing here to it. I changed the position of this object. I kind of brought it up to the top here. So you can move it around if you want to. I moved it back up to the top of my prototype. I changed the position of this to be 0, 0, 0, and I moved it to the top. Now I'm going to actually take this camera and I'm going to drag it and set it on my focal point. So now that is putting the camera to be just a part of the focal point. So it kind of stacked it under. I don't know if you can see this now. So it made it a child of the focal point. I hope that made sense. So now it's a part of this focal point. So now it's one step down of this focal point. So that becomes a child of this focal point. All right, I hope that makes sense. I'm going to hit Control S just so I save this as I go. And then the next thing I'm going to make is a scripts folder because I don't have a scripts folder yet. I don't need that in my assets. So click on assets. I know a lot of people get these kind of in weirdly weird places. So be really clear and make sure you're using good intent when you create your scripts folder. So always click on assets and then click on plus and go to folders and call it scripts. And so we have a good place for our scripts. So scripts, and we're going to create a new script and call it rotate camera. So now we can go from here and click on plus, and we'll do a C# script and call it rotate camera. Rotate camera. Okay, so now we have that. And we're going to add this to the focal point. So we're not adding it to the camera, we're adding it to that empty object. So this again is part of the problem some people have. So make sure we're grabbing it and we're adding it to that camera. There's one easy way to do that. Click on focal point and drag this to there. You guys follow me on this? So drag it from there to there. Some people try and drag it all the way up to here and they drop it sometimes and it ends up somewhere else. It's so much easier if you click on focal point and you grab rotate and drop it over here. It's so much easier if you do it that way. It's so much easier. So again, I clicked on focal point and then I dragged rotate camera and I dropped it there. I'm not going to do it again because it's already there. All right, so it's there. Script, rotate camera. So I see on focal point, I have the script of rotate camera. I didn't have any errors. If you get any errors, it could be that you created the script and then you renamed it. That could be part of the problem. And so just delete the script and try again. That would be the best thing. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control S again to save that. And we're going to go ahead and jump into the script. Let's go ahead and open the script. 2 clicks on it here, and it should open it up. All right, I have Visual Studios opening up. Let's see if I get it in big enough screen. It's looking pretty big. Sounds good. All right. So again, Unity builds us some information in here that is preloaded for us. Unity gives us all the stuff that we need to get started. We are going to create some variables. Again, when you create your variables, create at the beginning of your script, right at the start of the class. So right after the beginning curly brackets, hit enter a couple times. That's where variables are going to go. It says it says we're going to create a and at the beginning of the script we're going to create a public variable for rotation speed. So public float. And we're going to name it rotation speed. So this is our naming it. So if I spell it wrong, it's no big deal as long as I continue to spell it wrong. So don't spell it right later if you spell it wrong the first time. Speed. End with the semicolon. I'm going to call it later. The next thing is in the void update, we're also going to create a local variable that we're going to use to use our input. So this is our rotation speed. I'm actually going to give it a speed here. I know that they don't always do it in the code. Let's give it like the speed of 10 just to start with, just because I want to make sure we're starting with something. So I, again, give it a speed to start with. They don't always do that, and it can cause problems. So whenever they don't give you a speed, give it a speed. Don't just start with nothing. And that, again, wonder why it doesn't work. Give it something. So let's start with another float. We're going to do our horizontal input. We should have done this many times by now. We should know how to do this. Horizontal input equals input dot get axis. And remember in this, your quotation marks, you guys should know this by heart now, and should understand what's going on. So we are actually creating our horizontal inputs to be able to go horizontally on this. This can get really confusing because we're going to actually make this spin around, And our transform, we're going to rotate this as usual. You guys know this one also, so this you guys can speed past this. Transform.rotate. And then we're going to do vector 3 up. Vector 3 up. And horizontal input. Horizontal input times rotation speed. If I could spell rotation speed times 1 second. So time dot delta. Time dot delta. Time. Okay, so that, and then end with a semicolon. All right, so that should be working. Transform. Why is it giving me an error here? Not sure why. Rotate. I don't know why that's telling me something's wrong there. Oh, I see. I have a capital T there. No wonder. Transform. Okay, let's go with the capital lowercase t. Transform. There we go. All right. So again, if you have some errors, just look to see you have capitals. My dog's over there having a dream. If you wonder what the little chirping in the background is, you probably can't even hear it though on my directional microphone. Probably isn't picking it up. All right. Let's see. So we have that. Saved it. Let's go see if I can get back to my code and see if I can actually hit play and see if my camera will pick up. There we go. So I'm seeing my camera is going to spin around. And so I'm going left and right for my horizontal input. My speed is 10. So in my code, I could actually add in a bigger, faster number, which I probably am going to want to do because for sure that is super slow. So I could actually go into and add in numbers here. If I go to my focal point here and it says 10, I could put 60 here. I really don't like to use numbers in here because then I forget where they are. So I like to do it in my my script here because that's where it's going to end up anyway. Let's go ahead and put in 60 there. I'm actually going to take this back to private. I really don't like having it public. People like to have it for their troubleshooting, right? For them beta testing their stuff. I like to just keep it. They like to be able to adjust it while they're playing it. I like, okay, that looks a lot better. I like to be able to do that. I still feel like that looks really weird to me. I don't know why that is. It just to me seems really weird right now, but I will find out. It seems super odd. All right, let's go ahead and stop that, and let's see where we're at. So that was add forward force to the player. I feel like my world's at a weird angle, but we'll find out in a second if I need to make adjustments. I think that yours it should be laying flatter than that in my play area. We're going to add a flatter area in the play area. So we're going to talk about rotation speed for the player. So make sure that I didn't just mess up where I was. Here we go. Just speed, forward force. So in this next one, we're going to do our typical player controller. So let's click on our scripts folder, and we're going to create a script, and we're going to call it player controller. As typical, capital for our name of our scripts, player controller. All right, and we're going to drag that on top of our player as usual. So drag that, put that on our player. If it doesn't go, you can click on your player and see if it went. Do we have a script on there? No, we do not. So you can click on the player and drag this over to the last line on here and edit and see if it goes. So now we have player controller there. Awesome. So we have player controller there now. We know that it's there, and then we can open it up. We have player controller. Okay, we're going to add in our variables again at the top of the class. So after line 6, we're going to add in a few different variables here, including our rigid body and our public float speed. I'm going to pause while I add those just for the sake of time of this. So public or private rigid body player, and then a public float speed also. All right. All right. So I have those in on my code. If you, like I said before, I don't like to have things public. I don't adjust them inside of my game. So I keep the things like speed and stuff. I keep them private so that I can just edit them in my code only. It just, I get too confused when I try and edit them in my game and then go back and edit them in my code. That's up to you if you want to do that or not. In my start now, so I am going to be getting, before I can do anything, I need to get the rigid body information from my game in order to use it. So before I can do anything at the when I first hit start, I need to grab the rigid body and then I can use it to manipulate it. So that's the first thing I need to do is go to player, rigid body, or say I'm using the player rigid body variable and I'm going to make it equal something. So player rigid body is going to get the component of player rigid body. So get component of player rigid body. Oh, I didn't actually put those in there. And I'm going to get what? I'm going to get the rigid body. Okay. And at the end of that, I need my parentheses and the semicolon. Okay, that's what I'm going to do at the beginning of the game. When the game starts, I'm going to go get the rigid body of the what this is attached to, which is my player. I'm calling it player rigid body. I summarize that. And then in the void update, I'm going to then create another variable, a local variable. I'm going to call it my forward input. So now I've used my horizontal inputs to move the game sideways. I'm going to use my up and down arrows, my vertical inputs to move the player. So I am going to use my float and I'm going to use forward inputs to be using for controlling this player. So I'm going to say input dot get input get axis and I'm going to get my vertical axis. So capital VER. Oh goodness, I see my students do this all the time. TICAL. So vertical, I'll spell that right, and with a semicolon, and then player rigid body. Add force, and we're going to, how are we going to control this? We're going to say our vector 3 forward, times the speed. So the speed that we have in here, I believe, was a 5, times speed, and then times our forward input. So our forward input's what's going to control it. Forward input. All right, let's end that with a semicolon and let's save all. So click on the button that says save all and let's go back to our game and let's see. So now I should be able to spin around with the arrows going around, and then I should be able to go up and down with this. Whoa, I ran right off. That was fast. Let's try this again. I'm gonna hit run again, and see if I can go up and then down. So should we go down and up? Oh, down. Okay. And then if I turn, my up and down should be different. Up and down. Whoa. Up. So right now my up and down stay the same, right? So something's going on with my world. What's going on with my world? I'm going to pause for a second and figure that one. Okay, I did take a peek at what I did wrong. So I did look at my focal point and made sure that I reset my focal point to 0. I unattached the main camera. I set my focal point to 0, including my rotation, and then I reattached the camera. And now when I play it, my world's working well. So in case you end up with the same problem I did, your world will work correctly now. All right, so I don't want to have that problem. When I rotate the world now, let me just show you real quickly. When I rotate my world now, I can see my world. It doesn't just rotate and really world things. So when I go up and down, my up, my down and up is that was up all the time. We're going to fix that now. That I believe, oh, we're going to actually now make it so that we'll rotate, it will go in the same direction as the focal point. So we want to make sure that we're going in the same direction as the focal point. Because right now when we play it, and we hit the up and down arrows, the ball is not always going up. If we turn the playground or the playing area, if we hit up and we turn the play area, it's only going to go what used to be up. We want to actually change it so that the up is what we see as up. So we want to create something called the focal point in our player controller. So inside our player controller script, we are going to actually create a new variable that we are going to call focal point. So we're going to make it private, and we're going to make a call to game. We're going to call it a game object because we're going to attach something. We're going to attach the focal point to it. Call it focal point. That's what it is. Focal point. So we know that is what we're attaching to it. Focal point. And when we're going to say what to do with it. So at the start of the game, we want the focal point. We're going to find the focal point just like we found our rigid body. So focal point, we want to say, let's go get our focal point. So game object. This one's with a capital G. Make sure you get a capital G because we're going to get our game object. And we're going to go find it, find our game object. And we're going to go find the thing called focal point. Now, this is important that you know how you spelled focal point in your game. So take a minute right now to actually, if you're following along with me, to go look in your game to see how did you spell your focal point. I spelled it capital F-O-C-A-L, capital space, capital P-O-I-N-T. Okay, so I want to make sure that I spelled it the same. Yes, I did. Otherwise, I'm not going to find it, right? So it's going to go find that game object focal point. This is not like you're attaching something to it. It's finding that game object. It's going out and getting it. In the past, we've actually gone and attached something to it. It's going out right now looking for the word game object. So you've got to go make sure that you are naming it correctly. If it doesn't work, it's because you have not looked for the right name. So again, if you're following this video because things aren't working, that could be part of it. In our void update, we are going to then add, instead of our vector 3 forward, we are going to change this vector 3 forward to be focal point. We're going to say, instead of saying a vector 3 forward meant up and down, right? We wanted to say, oh, go in the direction of up and down. Well, no, we want it to be focal point. So we want to pay attention to our variable of focal point. We're going to say focal point dot transform forward. So that's going to be our new forward. So transform dot forward. So that's going to be our new forward. So that is going to be our new forward. I hope this makes sense. So this variable focal point, so this focal point meaning get our focal point, wherever that focal point is going to be our new forward. So if our ball is down, it's going to go towards that focal point. Wherever our ball is, that's going to be our new forward. Okay, so that's going to be forward for us. If we hit down, it's going to go away from that focal point. So if our focal point is here and we move, wherever that is, that is the new forward. I hope that makes sense. So that is going to be where we're at. Let's go ahead and save that. And let's see if this works. Now, I feel like our speed is super fast. Well, let's go ahead and save that. And let me see if I can just tap my button this time instead. So I'm going to go ahead and spin this and say up and down. Tap it down. I feel like it's going kind of slow. I'm going to spin it and say up, 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 up. Yeah, but it's working. And down, 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 down. And turn it and say up, 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 up. Oh, down, 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 no, down, down, up, 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 up. Yeah, see, this is so hard to play. So maybe it isn't too fast. So again, I think my up and downs are working. I think that's good. So that was all of lesson 4.1. And I think that's where we're going to stop right here for 4.1. and I will do the next video for all of 4.2.